A warm welcome, everybody, to Barcelona for the 20th running of the 24 hours of Circuit de Catalunya, and it has been run here since 1998 in various different forms. This year, once again, it is a GT Series and TCE Series combined race, but for 2018, of course, they're two very different championships. So by the end of the race on Sunday at midday, we will have two overall winners of this race, which is steeped in some terrific history. Only 2010 was the year that it didn't happen, so 20 races we will have by the end of this weekend to look back on, and its traditional slot in the calendar in the second weekend of September. We hope you're well. We hope you're looking forward to an exciting race across all of the two categories and the many classes within. And this is round 6 of the year after visits to Dubai in January, then on to Silverstone in March, first visit to Spain and Navarra in April, and we've been to Imola and Portimao since then. But a 2-month break ends here at Barcelona, and you're tuned to RS1, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. Cars are being wheeled out onto the apron then ahead of this 60-minute session. It's Johnny Palmer, Joe Bradley and Paul Truswell in the main commentary box looking over this fantastic circuit. 4.6 kilometres of it, and roughly the same sort of length as the Portimao track we were at 61 days ago. And Paul, thankfully, has been through to recall for me some of the corner names, the traditional corner names, because I, for one, and I'm sure Paul as well, dislike very much just naming corners after numbers. So we'll try our best to give you a bit of history to the track, which was built in 1991. So not far away from being 30 years old, this place. And, of course, his long-distance racing goes back well before that here in Spain at the fantastic Montjuic Park, which is probably only about 20 k's from here, and you can still trace that historic track around the parkland setting. In fact, I think they did in about 2009 an anniversary meeting of that of the sort of historic races and mapped it all out. And I don't know whether they did some proper racing around there, but
I think it was more of a display, wasn't it? Demo, yeah.
But that was nice to do that.
Have you ever been down there?
No, never done it.
Beautiful place. And you can retrace the actual circuit that the Spanish Grand Prix was held on until 75.
Yes. That fateful year.
When
5 spectators were killed, 10 further injured, and
Rolf Stommelen went over the barrier, but rear wing broke off.
Was badly injured too. He went on to race again, didn't he?
But that race was marred by the drivers refusing to take to the track, the teams refusing to take the track, because the barriers were insecure.
Yes.
Andrew Marriott itching to get involved in this because he was probably there in 75.
That's exactly what he's mouthing. Andrew was there. Paul, bring us back to the present day.
Yes, yeah. Looking forward to this. I was going to, for a moment, wanted to start talking about the history of racing in Spain, of course, because it sort of doesn't quite live up to its own, or it lives beyond its reputation somehow, because it doesn't have a great reputation, but there is actually a great Spanish racing heritage, although possibly more on 2 wheels than it is on 4. But let's talk about what we've got on the circuit, because we have the qualifying session, which an hour, everybody in it together, not splitting GTs from touring cars or the TCE series from the GT series. Everybody's out there together for 60 minutes, and the 60 minutes will be commencing in around about 58 seconds or so. No, there it goes, green light now. So circuit open, and I had a quick word with a couple of drivers down in the garages a few minutes ago, and mentioned it to Joe as soon as I came up here. It's all going to be about being on new tyres in terms of getting a quick lap time. So you've got an hour, but you've probably got at most 3 sets of new tyres that they're going to throw at the drivers, so 3 chances to get a clear lap.
There's no restriction in the regulations as to how many tyres you can use. It's as big as your checkbook will allow, isn't it?
It's as big as your checkbook will allow. And of course, bearing in mind that you might want to use some of the tyres again later on.
You will do.
Yeah.
The Hankook has an optimum lap, though, doesn't it? When the tyre is optimised.
And for the purposes of qualifying, they don't really care other than just getting that one lap. Krista Dooley was telling me that when you're in a race situation, it matters hugely how you dial the tyre in. So if you go straight out and be aggressive, you'll ruin the tyre after about 4 laps. If you dial it in and build up slowly, then you can make it last for an hour and a half. Of course, the problem is that the stint or the fuel length for this kind of racing is about an hour, so it'll do 1 stint, but it won't really do 2. In fact, I think Diana was talking, or maybe it was Andrew who was talking to Krista Dooley, was suggesting that it might be a double stint, and I think Andrew Adams' words were something like, "You'd be pushing your luck."
What you're talking about there, though, Paul, is using tyres in race conditions
for two separate stints.
Throw that textbook out the window. Yeah, we're talking about running the tyres, optimising the tyres, because what we've got on the track at the moment, Jelmer Berman in the number 5 Ram Racing and the Aston Martin behind him out on track, first and second out of the pits, they're weaving on the straights to get heat into the tyres. They want to get straight on with this.
Absolutely, and of course, the earlier they do it in the session, the better, because the track has the best chance of being clear.
This track renowned for being highly abrasive, although it has been resurfaced since the running of this race in 2017. So it's Johnny, Joe and Paul in the main booth overlooking this great track from the 3rd floor, and down at ground level is Diana Binks. Good afternoon, Di.
It's about 200 metres in length here, so I'll have to be doing a bit of running up and down to see what's going on. The temperature at the moment, it was really sunny earlier, but it's dropped a little bit cloudy. The temperature's about 30 degrees, but out on track it's now around 36 degrees. It was 40 degrees a bit earlier, so that may sway. There's a few cars still in the garage getting ready to go, but they're quite relaxed. They're waiting on their opportunity. I reckon that obviously the quick drivers are behind the wheel, just waiting. They know when to pitch it right to go out on track, as you see a few other cars that are leaving just behind me.
So plenty more from Diana Binks. Thank you, Di, for that initial introduction and scene set. We'll come to you for plenty more should things kick off in this session and we have pit stop visitors. But at the moment, I suppose the priority is trying to lay down a banker lap time as early as you can in the session, with track space a little bit at a premium.
I think Joe's point a minute ago is a valid one. Oh no, it was you, Johnny. You just said that the track's been resurfaced since
that was
last
me.
year. It was you, yes. I knew somebody had said it, and I really said that is a significant point because a bit like some other circuits which have been resurfaced, seems to offer a little bit more grip as well. And I was saying that comparing lap times between this race 2 years ago, because last year it was a touring car only race, but 2 years ago we had the GT cars here, and they're about 5 seconds a lap faster, but they're about 4 seconds a lap faster since they were here last year with the Blancpain series. Now, admittedly, Blancpain runs on a different tyre, which makes things different, but it does mean that the new surface is clearly a benefit in terms of setting quick lap times, but that tends to go together with being higher wear as well when you get better grip.
The resurfacing demanded by Formula One, do we know if it's the same material as what went down at Silverstone, which has caused all sorts of issues at the Grand Prix, at the World Endurance Championship, and more recently the MotoGP race, which had to be cancelled? I think that's more of a drainage thing than a surface issue.
No idea whether it's the same type of stuff.
I'm thinking it may be because of F1's requirements.
But in any event, it would have been treated to a different series of weather conditions down here in northeastern Spain than we had in the middle of England. 47.4 is the best lap we've had thus far. That's Jelmer Berman, 1 minute 47.409. That's faster than anyone went in this morning's free practice session, but not as quick as was done yesterday in the optional test. Although yesterday's optional test, temperature's not as warm as they are here today. think that might be the ultimate thing that's going to slow them down, is quite how warm the air is. So Jelmer Berman top with a 1:47.409. Second fastest is a 1:49.128, except it's not, because Adam Christodoulou goes to the top with the number 85 Pro Sport Mercedes, and he does a 1:47.001.
I think we could well see toing and froing as the laps are completed. They're on the first fast runs, and we saw Jelmer Berman go out on his out lap. He was waving the car. He wanted those tyres right up to temperature pretty quickly, and he certainly got that. And his time, as he put in a 1:47.4. Then we've got Adam Christodoulou, who behind him on track position wise, was doing exactly the same, and he's gone 4/10 quicker. So that's a considerable difference for first runs.
Just to remind everybody, there were no GT cars here last year, you've already said that, but the pole time from 2016 was a 1:49.225. I'm going to ask Paul whether he concurs with that, but it was a Jeroen Blekemolen time. He was sharing a Lamborghini with Joe Osborne, Richard Abra and Mark Poole at the time. It was an all-Italian front row, actually, in 2016, with a Lamborghini and the Czech Republic Ferrari, of which we've got 3 of the 4 drivers that raced in 2016 back with us in car number 11. Juri Pisaric, Josef Kral, who had a crash earlier on today in the paid-for practice session, the sort of what's the technical name for that?
Test.
Optional test.
Yeah, it was optional test number 3, which was today. They had 2 optional tests yesterday.
Right.
1 and 2.
Basically,
a morning and an afternoon.
Basically, what it means, Johnny, is the entry fee covers this morning's first free practice, and then everything else is optional. However, we did see pretty much everyone taking that option, which is, you know, everyone wants to be competitive.
There are some bolt-on sessions if you've got the money to back it up, I suppose.
And the answer to the question that you asked earlier on regarding the Wochenspiegel Ferrari, not the number 11 Scuderia Praha car, but the Wochenspiegel Ferrari, which is running here in Barcelona as car number 488.
For obvious reasons.
Because it's a Ferrari 488. That's number 22, if you know what I mean. So if you follow the VLN series, it's the number 22 VLN car. They do have the other Wochenspiegel Monschau car here as well. That's in the back of the garage being used as spare parts, but the idea is that they'll use the 22 car as the 488 for this weekend.
And neither of which were on the Nordschleife last Saturday, because I think they were more concentrated on Barcelona, so we missed them as 2 very strong cars in the VLN Championship, but nevertheless it was a good result for Falcon Motorsports, a 1-2 no less, for their Porsche and BMW respectively. Joe?
Christodoulou's second fastest lap, a 47.2, not far off his 47.0, but then Matteo Maliucelli has gone second quickest in the number 11 Bohemia Energy Racing with Scuderia Praha Ferrari, to give it its full title first off. 1:47.1 is his quickest time, and he's just 0.176 of a second, just under 2/10 off that, and he's gone quicker still, has he? Not quite, no, 1.177 is the difference. No, 0.176 is the difference. Third place is Jelmer Berman. He's been bogged down by some traffic. Now, if you don't get that quick lap in, that optimized lap, you've got to time the optimum lap for the tyres that you're on, matched with the optimum time out on track for track position, because right now the front runners are right in the world of the TCE series runners.
And Matteo Maliucelli on a real quick lap this time. He's up through the first sector. That's the car's best sector 1 time, a 30.1, and you can tell from the body language of that number 11 car, the repaired 488, that this could be something a bit special. We'll keep our eyes glued on that and update you just as soon as we can, but in the meantime, an update from Di in the pits.
I'm halfway up the pit lane, and the number 55 ATEC Racing car, the TCR car just behind me, still in the garage. They said they've got a master cylinder problem, so they're having to make some changes in there. I asked them how long they think it might be, and they said about 20 minutes, but they don't seem to be in too much a rush, but it's crucial, isn't it, at this point of the qualifying session, to lose that much time out there on track, and especially with the traffic that's out there.
Yeah, and it depends what you're willing to do as far as the session is concerned. Whether you want to sit this bit out, which is busier out on track, or go out because the grip is there in the early part of the session and run the risk of your lap being compromised because you do encounter traffic.
Krista Dooley into the 46s now, or he actually went into the 46s just as we went down to Diana in the pits. 146.782 then for Adam Krista Dooley. That pushes his margin of advantage over Malicelli to 0.395 of a second. So it's the Mercedes leading the Ferrari, and then 3 Mercedes, second, third and fourth. Christian Frankenhout, great time in the Hoffa Racing Mercedes, 147.209 for him. Jelmer Berman pushed back to 4th fastest in the Ram Racing Mercedes. His best was 147.346. And then the Rothko Mercedes, the number 31 car, Thomas Jaeger, the professional driver in that car, brought in for this weekend, 147.527 to be third of those Mercedes, to be 5th fastest overall.
TCE runners, TCE, the TCE part of our race is being led at the moment by the number 178. That's the Colin White, the CWS Janetta. James May putting in the time. He's now in the pits. Second in TCE is the first of our TCR runners, and that's the number 107. That's the Mondial Competition local team, and it's who's in the car?
Jose Manuel Perez Alcart.
Yeah, Jose Icart, I think is what we started calling him last year, just to shorten it. And Vincent Rademacher making an appearance in the 888 numbered Audi, and his time is the times 156.7 for James May, 157.3 for Icart, and 157.336. Only a couple of hundredths between second and third. So TCE shaping up to be quite a battle.
So they're all in the pits, interestingly. The top 4 are all in the pit lane.
That's because their tyres have been optimised. You might as well come in, put them on the truck for the race, get me a new set of tyres.
Right, so you literally do.
It's pointless going round and round.
So they've done an out lap, a flying lap, an in lap, and then say it's pointless carrying on with these tyres. I need to change over.
Yeah, if you've got a clear lap out of it, then you may not be able to go any more quickly on the following lap. Sometimes you get balked on your first lap, and then you'll stay out and do a second lap. What was surprising as Joe was running through those TCR class cars was that the Red Camel Seat wasn't amongst them. I was expecting Rick Breukers to be featuring amongst them. I think he's 7th.
He's not far off at the moment. Yeah,
well,
he's 5th. Is it 5th in the TCR class?
5th now, is he? As I say, he was 7th earlier on. So Rick Breukers.
He's 8th in TCE.
Right.
7th in TCR.
Right.
Yeah. Because the TCR class is part of the TCE series.
Yeah. Because you've got the SP3 cars in there, messing it up as it were.
But it's only one of the 4 SP3, or maybe the three SP3 cars that is quicker than any of the TCRs at the moment. Whereas in free practice this morning, I think we had 2 or 3
Very
SP3s.
much SP3s to the 4,
at the sharp end.
The other thing, whilst we're talking about classes and divisions, is that the leading, I was going to say, just reset that, because the leading 2 cars at the moment are both A6 AM class cars, because Adam Krista Dooley, the Pro Sport Mercedes, is running as an A6 AM, and now up to second place is the Hoffa Racing Mercedes. We didn't mention this, but Christian Frankenhout has just gone second quickest with a 146. He's also in the 146. It's 146.907 for Christian Frankenhout. Means that the top 2 A6 cars, top 2 cars overall, are A6 AM class cars. Now, there's nothing to stop you putting a pro driver into an A6 AM class car. You're only allowed to have 1 pro driver in an AM car, and he's limited to only doing 8 hours maximum. But in an AM class car, the AM drivers have to do at least half of the race. So that's kind of how it then slows them down, depending on how slow their AM drivers are. But of course, if you're consistent, as Hoffa Racing we know can be, and Pro Sport as well, it certainly shows just how quick the drivers are in the AM class, and they have the advantage of running slightly lighter cars. I think it's 30 kilos lighter if you're running in the AM class, so that's possibly why we're seeing the pro driver of the AM teams above the pro drivers in the pro team cars.
Right, so that might explain why Isaac Tumbly Lopez was fastest in free practice this morning as well in the 33 car collection Audi R8 car collection. The German squad are here again. Creventic stalwarts, sometimes turning up at race meetings with 3 R8 LMSs, just the 2 this weekend, the 33 and the 34 cars, but they're both entered in the A6 AM category. And just to give you an update on where those cars are at the moment, car 34 is 13th fastest and 5th of the A6 AMs, being driven by Max Edelhoff at the moment, and the other one is Isaac de Tumbly's just taken that car over, 9th quickest for car 33, with the Spaniard now back at the wheel after he put in the fastest time of free practice earlier on today, and that car is 3rd in A6 AM, behind the 2 pace setters overall. Adam Dooley in Mercedes 85 and Christian Frankenhout in Mercedes number 1. On the live stream, there are many onboard cameras to enjoy, including for our overnight coverage Saturday into Sunday, because we'll be stepping down as far as the commentary is concerned at 11 p.m. local time on Saturday night through till 7 a.m. Sunday morning. One man will still be on site and ensuring that he's keeping you up to date via tweets, and that'll be Paul Truswell, but we'll maintain our coverage of the race via onboards from 10 separate cars, one of which will be the Kerhoff sponsored, Kerhoff Gruppe sponsored number 34 car collection machine, and on the live stream we'll stay on board for a whole lap to give you an indication of the left and the rights of this Barcelona circuit, all 4.6 kilometres of it. And it does go up and down. You wouldn't necessarily get that impression from external television shots, but the onboard gives you much more of an idea of the swoops and climbs of this place.
They're not plunges like we get at Brands Hatch or Portimao. They are gradient changes, but they're ever so slight. And this circuit's all about momentum. It's a momentum circuit. It's got a lovely flow to it, and that's what I mean when I mentioned about the changes towards the end of the lap, which we'll get to on the stream in a moment. But they've tightened it up for F1, and the knock-on effect of that is it's got less of a flow for pretty much every single category of racing underneath Formula One. And towards the end of the lap now, you've got a very tight right-hander, and the number 34 car is at that section of track now, followed by a tight left-right chicane. Slows everything down. Now, the reason behind this changes of circuit, which I forget when the circuit was actually changed, it's been like this for about 4 or 5 years now, and that was because the final turn, we saw some pretty nasty high-speed accidents coming through that final turn, which in Formula One was virtually flat chat without a lift. The car just stuck there. When something went wrong, there was always going to be a big one. You were going to go off almost into Portugal when he went off there. It was the corner was so quick. So the changes were for safety reasons. You can never argue with that. It hasn't exactly created a passing point. It's certainly created a point where you can fluff a lap time up, and certainly in this qualifying session, you can get to that part of the track, you can see that you're up on your delta, you're a couple of tenths up, you're going to improve, and then it can all go to rats right at the very end of the lap in this very technical slow part. And it was the legend that is Bob Wallach who educated Johnny Molam, who was here this weekend racing, that's where you can make a lot of time over your competitors. It's the slow stuff, the technical stuff, where you can really, really change things.
It's 4,655 metres this track, and it's been like that since 2007. So it's been a fair old time.
Has it really been 10 years since we changed it?
11 years.
Oh, yeah. My goodness.
Yeah,
oh, my goodness.
Prior to that, it was slightly shorter, 4,627 metres. It was only a slight adjustment. Let's get a first interview of the session with Diana Binks, who's joined now by Jelmer Berman from the number 5 car.
Jelmer, you've been out on track. How are you managing the traffic on this qualifying session? It's looking very tight.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we were out first on track when the session started, so that was good. But in the end, the speed difference between the cars is huge. So you cannot really plan when you're going to catch traffic. And the only trick is to do a lot of laps and then finally find your spot at some point. First lap, traffic-wise, was quite okay. But the tires weren't quite there yet. Obviously, it's cooled down a bit, air temperature, track temperature. And we were a bit low on pressures at that time, so couldn't really attack. And then the second lap, it was already, I was in the middle of the traffic. So it's it's very exciting to drive through the cars, but in your quali run, it would be nice to have a bit more freedom, clear track.
It does seem that in the pit lane there are a lot more cars than we'd normally see, and they're obviously choosing their moment to, as you say, put in those laps and come back in.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, if everyone continues to drive, I mean, all the other cars, then there will never be a free slot. But I guess everyone's hoping for a moment when some cars come in, where it gives you a bit more free play on track and to set a fast time then.
In free practice, did you get a feel for your respective pace or what that might be?
Yeah, I mean, also free practice was pretty busy. Maybe not as busy as now, but still pretty busy. And temperatures are going up and down. So when the sun is out and the track heats up, it costs a lot of performance in the end. You really see the lap times drop. And when it's a bit cloudy, the pace both goes down again. So in the end, it's very difficult to judge where you are because everyone is driving at a different time. But in the end, I think we have a very strong lineup, very strong team. So we should. It's a very long race, so we should have a good chance.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's Jelmer Berman with Diana Binks.
Yeah, it's great to see Jelmer Berman in that car, and I'm sure, you know what, we see a familiar name in that car, of course, is Taman Cole, who's shared with Raymond Vos many, many times. But to have the likes of Jelmer Berman come in, to have the likes of young Rick Breukers, his first experience of the MGGT, he's no doubt a very, very capable young driver. I think we're going to see a different game from Taman Cole. Tom has been driver, coach and mentor to Raymond Vos, and he's got him to this level. Now we are really serious in that number 5 Ram Racing entry, aren't we? We're here to win. They've brought in Jelmer Berman, they've brought in Rick Breukers, and I think we'll see a different Taman Cole. I think we'll see Tom put his game face on. I'm not saying that he hasn't had his game face on. I just think he's now got teammates that are comparable, and so we're going to see a different Taman Cole, I would think.
And Tom's coming here after victory last weekend at Silverstone in the latest International GT Open race, where he races in a Pro-Am car with Valentin Pierreberg, but they won the race outright, which I think is the first Pro-Am overall victory of the season for anybody. So I passed on my congratulations at breakfast to him this morning, and he said it's all down to Valentin. All those hours on the simulator finally come good, So well done to both of those guys, and they come here, of course, with the potential to have 2 wins on back-to-back weekends.
New fastest lap time altogether for the Audi, the car collection car. Isaac Tumbly has put in a 1 minute 46.684. That's about 100th of a second quicker than Adam Christodoulou's time. So it's Audi, Mercedes, the top 3 now, with Isaac Lopez, Isaac Tumbly then top of the list. Adam Christodoulou's second fastest, 146.782. Christian Frankenhout still third for Hoffa Racing with a 146.907. Then it's Madicelli in the Ferrari, the Bohemia Energy with Scuderia Praha Ferrari 488 with a 147.177. Top 4 times separated by less than half a second. How close do you want it? And 3 different manufacturers amongst them. Bram Racing are 5th fastest with the number 5, red 5. Jelmer Berman is in the pits at the moment. That car is in the pits. Obviously Jelmer's in the pits because you just heard from him, but it's not been out since that one lap. And then 6th fastest is number 17, the EDEC Sport Racing Mercedes, which Dimitri Angelbert has done a time of 147.465 to move that car then up to 6th place. Malicelli is back out in the Ferrari and has done a 1 minute 47.2.
You talk about the Dimitri Angelbert car. There's been a driver change relatively late on there because we've no Paul Lafargue, Patrice's son, anymore, because Marvin Klein has taken Paul's seat. I assume Paul is busy elsewhere, unless he is here in support of his father. But that will be a semi-pro for a semi-pro, I reckon.
Yeah, Paul is doing something else, but I don't know if it clashes this weekend. But I know that he's kind of... feels that he's moved on from the Creventic series, having got taste for endurance racing.
Well, he's done the ELMS all season long, and EDEC sometimes turning up at ELS meetings with 2 cars now, with the, should we say, the gentleman entry and then the slightly more serious entry that Paul is installed in.
Well, we do have 2 EDEC cars here.
We do.
We've got the Porsche running in the 991 class, EDEC Sport Racing with David Abramczyk, Stephen Adler, Roman Wozniak, Christoph Cresp, and Frank Mekali. 5-driver lineup in their 991. Fastest 991 class car currently, just because we haven't mentioned 991, is the number 73 car, the EB Motors Porsche, which has done the time of 1:51.835 with Marco Frezza currently at the wheel of that car.
Shall we have a TCE update? No change at the front of TCE. It's still the number 178 CWS Ginetta. Stephen Wells now at the wheel of that. Their quickest time, 1:56.018, in difference to 1:56.174 from the first of our TCR runners. Vincent Rademacher it is in the AAA. That's the AC Audi RS3. That car currently in the pits as well. They are, just to give you an idea of where they are in the overall field, 23rd and 24th. Then in 27th and 28th is 3rd and 4th in TCE. Both TCR cars. Rick Breukers, you asked about him earlier, Paul. The 303, the Red Camels Jordan entry. That car is 3rd in TCE, 1:56.783. Then we've got Jordi Genet in the number 108, and he's in 4th in TCE, 1:57.069. So that is a very, very tight field. And then just dropping out of that, we mentioned them earlier, the 107, the Monlau Racing car of Jose Manuel Perez Icart. He's down to 4th in the TCE category. 4th in TCR. We're going to continue doing that, aren't we? TCR, TCE.
Jake Dennis doing something a bit special that time through. Best lap of the session for the 620R Motorsport Aston Martin. The only 6-litre V12 on the grid, but it sounds fantastic, and quite an old girl now, the Aston Martin.
Is that why it's car number 620?
Well, it might be.
Because that was going to be my
I thought it was a
challenge
6-litre on the nose rather than a 6.2, though.
Is it? Okay. So my challenge
used to
Di or
Andrew. Or Andrew, because they're going to be changing over fairly shortly, is to find out why they're running as car number 620. Obviously, they can kind of pick and choose pretty much, and to an extent, Creventic will allow you to have whichever number you want. I don't know if Diana's got an answer to that question, or whether she's going to answer a different question.
She's down in FF Course land. So let's hear from Charlie Hollings first of all with Di.
Sorry, Paul, I have a different answer. I've got Charlie here. I could hear you. I do apologise. Charlie, you're just watching proceedings here in the garage. It's very busy out there on the circuit. Johnny's not put as quick a time as you'd like yet.
Not yet, but there's still lots of time in the session left. He's had one set of new tyres and he's going on his second set now. So, but there is a lot of traffic, so I'm sure we'll kind of be okay. It'll be nice to just be up in the top 6, but. Yeah, we'll see if he gets a clear lap. A lot of cars out there.
You guys all know what you're doing. Strategy is obviously going to be key here with so much to deal with. I noticed that you didn't go out straight away when the session started. So the strategy is working?
Yeah, again, just preserving the car a little bit. It was very busy right at the start. And yeah, it's getting a little bit quieter now, the session, but a lot of kind of the TCR cars. Some of the other cars are very slow relative to GT3, so it's really hard if you get stuck in the last sector. You can lose 2 seconds quite easily, so just trying to manage the traffic in this session as much as possible.
It looks like, when we look at the sky here, it's sort of got quite a big cloud up there, but temperature doesn't seem to have dropped, so is that having any effect?
No, it's actually, I think, good for the whole team over the weekend that it's not boiling hot. You know, there's a bit of chance of, hopefully we don't have rain, but a little bit of cloud and just keeps everything a bit cooler and looks after the tyres a bit better. So should help us, or help all the cars down the pit lane during the race, but it's not a bad thing for us.
This qualifying session is going to be quite exciting, and I guess the race is going to be even more so.
Yeah, obviously everyone knows qualifying's great, but in a 24-hour race, just got to keep chipping away, plugging away, and we've got two drivers who have never done a 24-hour race before, Ivor Dunbar and Bonamy Grimes, so they'll just be learning, and we're just racking through getting them the mileage and yeah, learning as much as possible.
from a driver's perspective, how would you describe Barcelona?
It's great, actually, really good. I've never done the Barcelona 24-hour race before, and it's really, really cool event. Nice, good full grid, and really strong GT3 grid as well. Some top drivers in there, so it's nice to be part of it.
All right, I'll let you go back into the garage to watch those times. Thank you, Charlie.
Charlie Hollings with Diana Binks. Paul Truswell.
New fastest lap of the session to Tom Onslow Cole. You were saying he was going to raise his game.
I did think that.
He's got a high game anyway, but Tom Onslow Cole, fastest of all, 1 minute 46.593. So remember, we started off just dipping into the 46s. Now we're down to very nearly 46.5, 46.593 then for Tom Onslow Cole. Puts the Ram Racing Mercedes top of the heap and into second place. It is still second, just a new driver. Isaac Tumbly Lopez handed the car over to Ivan Perez, who, if memory serves, is just 17 years of age, so not a very experienced, but a semi-pro, but young driver of just 17 years of age. He's now second in the Audi, so it's Mercedes, Audi, and then two more Mercedes. The Adam Christodoulou Pro Sport car in the pits at the moment. Christian Frankenhout has gone back out again in the number 1 Hoffer Racing Mercedes, but hasn't yet improved his time to that. Jake Dennis, that car back in the pit, got down to a 47.143. That's good enough for 5th fastest now. And Matteo Malicelli is also in the pits with the Ferrari number 11 with a best of 147.177. Puts him 6th fastest overall.
Tom Onslow Cole about to complete another lap. Let's see if the tyres, we certainly know Tom's got it in him, but I think he's been balked now at that very tight and twisty Mickey Mouse end to the lap. He's been balked massively in the final turn, so we're not going to see an improvement from an already fastest lap of the session from Tom Onslow Cole. He's right off the pace and I think his next lap's going to be ruined as well, because he was the all-important start-finish straight was compromised massively as he came on to finish that lap. Another couple of interesting cars that are in the pits, and as I say that, Jake Dennis just takes the 620 numbered Aston Martin out for another go at it. Matteo Malicelli is in the pit also, as is the E-Deck number 17 Mercedes of Dimitri Engelbert. So keep an eye on them when they come back into this qualifying session. And also the Herbert Motorsport car, we haven't mentioned them very much, currently 9th in the session so far. They're in the pits, and we haven't seen anyone other than Matt Campbell in that car so far. So we wait to see if they're going to put any other of their drivers in the car to have a go at the qualifying.
I would be surprised, because nobody's going to be quicker than Matt unless they put somebody in for a bit of experience, of course. And why not? Because it's more track time, and you can do a qualifying time in a minute and a half, and that's another sort of 57 minutes or so that you can still use. I noticed Tom Onslow Cole very wayward indeed. Now, I'm not sure whether that was on this lap or on the previous, but we know he was slightly balked towards the end of his previous effort, and well out wide on the sort of return leg around the Campos and La Caixa corners, I think.
He's put a personal best in fastest sector 2, and we saw that he encountered traffic there. He's put a pretty reasonable sector 1 in, so this could be, if he gets the final sector and he's got no traffic ahead of him, there is a TCR Cupra ahead of him, not sure. He's into the pits. So Tom Onslow Cole calls that a done deal certainly on that set of tyres, and we're pretty much halfway through, aren't we, Paul? We're just past the half distance.
Just over halfway through the session. 33.5 minutes of the session gone, 26 minutes still to go. Onslow Cole coming in for more fuel. Meanwhile, the Aston Martin Jake Dennis, a very gentle outlap for him, but he's going round, as Joe said, back out again in the Aston Martin, crosses the line now and starts a flying lap. He's got to improve, if he's going to improve, on a 147.143. Just reflecting really on the strategy of what you're doing.
Just a bit of a weather report. We've got a very ominous looking black cloud that's appeared over the circuit. I'm not sure if it's dropping any rain. I think it's from behind us.
Right.
But that might be able to be added to by Andrew Marriott, who's now taken over in the pits. Andrew, where's that black cloud that I've just seen?
Well, as they say from where I come from, it's black over Bill's mother's. But no sign of rain yet, but the temperature has also dropped. So this session might not stay dry to the very end. And as I speak now, I think I might have just fell first drop of rain.
Oh,
There you go.
Johnny, can you explain exactly what Andrew said there? Because I think you've got to be from the Midlands to
You probably have.
a clue what on earth that was all
Look,
about.
it's black over Bill's mother's, which Bill's mother's house is on the horizon, and if it's black over there, then that means it's going to rain in a few minutes. It's just like the other comment he threw in prior to our coverage, which was round the reeking, which I thought was a UK-wide phrase. And each of you, Paul and
yeah.
Joe, looking
Paul's
at
from
me,
the south, I'm from the
looking
north,
at
you're
me
in the
with
middle.
blank faces. The reeking is a sort of hill, relatively high hill in the Telford area of Shropshire, and when you run round the Wrekin, it means you're just going round and round and round chasing your tail. Never heard of that, have you?
No.
Andrew and I will educate you about our Midlands ways, be sure of that.
I'm
And there'll be
looking
many
forward to
people
it.
at home,
Are you,
my
Paul?
home.
This
I'm
and other
excited.
phrases can be found in Brewer's Dictionary, a phrase and fable, shortly to be coming out in a Midlands edition.
If nothing else, we will educate you during this broadcast.
Marvellous stuff. I forgot what I was going to say now because you've completely put me off my straight.
Partly surprised after that.
Jake Dennis, we were talking about, he has completed his out lap. Now he's on a flying lap, waiting to go through to see if he's going to be able to improve. He wasn't on that last lap. The FF Corsa Ferrari comes in. That's the number 23 car. Johnny Molam currently only 13th. That car having not improved on its last lap. Yes, it did actually. It got down to a 48.628, but that was a sequence of 5 flying laps from Johnny, and he did the fastest of them, 148.628 on his 5th lap. So tyres may have been an issue there. What is going to be an advantage, if it gets cooler but doesn't rain, is that we could see a sudden flurry of faster times. Obviously, if it rains, all that will go into a cocked hat. But if it just gets cooler, then that will help the engine improvement. Although the prevailing wind is in their face as it comes down the main straight. So you do have a bit of a wind in their faces.
Johnny Molam straight back out, Paul. Looks like he's come in.
Just for fuel.
He's refueled. Maybe he's slapped another set of Hankook rubber onto the car, and he's gone out looking for more time. He's got a 48.628 to beat, like you said. He'll not be happy with where he is, 7th in the A6 Pro class. In fact, he's the final. That car, the FF Corsa car 23, is the final in the is the last car running in the A6 Pro class. So he'll not be happy with that. They were expecting a lot more in this
Can't
weekend.
quite decide if that car is black or very, very, very dark blue.
It's very dark blue.
It's a bit like Graham Hill's helmet, which was dark blue, and then Damon decided it was black.
No, it's a car that has been used by FF Corsa across lots of different types of lots of different championships within GT3. And I think Graham Goodwin and I have had that argument before as well when it ran in the Michelin Le Mans Cup in previous years. But yeah, you get up close and it's pretty obviously a navy blue.
It's a very dark blue, yeah.
My weather forecast would suggest it's going to rain from now and for much of the rest of the evening, actually. Of course, we've got night practice to come later on. And we may well get showers all the way up till 11 o'clock tonight. It's not going to be constant rain, but sort of sporadic showers, which is going to be annoying, really. Saturday, Sunday looking better. I can't find any rain for Saturday and Sunday unless it's a slight passing shower. Meanwhile, a bit of a drama, we think, for the TCR entry car number 120.
It's Martin Byford at the wheel of that car.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether Martin's just holding off just to give himself a good run through the final turn. Looks like he's back up to speed now. So we saw him going slowly there. He's now back up to speed. He was wanting to give it a bit of a slingshot out of that left-right chicane and optimising this fast as he possibly could through the final turn here to start what will be his flying lap. The car currently down in 39th overall, 10th in the TCR class and 13th in the TCE series. So that will not be where Martin Byford wants to start this race.
No, certainly not. Racing for it's BPM, isn't it? BPM Racing with their Cupra TCR.
Bit of a drama in the pit lane because the CWS Ginetta has ground to a halt in the pit lane itself. This is the fastest car in the TCR TCE division. It's an SP3 class car, but Stephen Wells, don't know, he's kind of just moving, but only just, going very, very slowly down the pit lane at the moment. If you are around the circuit, you'll see that they have the illuminated numbers on the sides of the cars, giving the position in the standings at the moment. Hans was very pleased when he said he could get that working, and was desperately trying to get it working in time for qualifying. So. And unfortunately for the Colin White team, Vincent Rademacher has just gone quickest of all in TCE. So car 888 goes to the top of the lists in the TCE class. The Audi making it. No, it's not an Audi 1-2 anymore, is it? Because Tom Onslow Cole has gone quickest. But so we've got an Audi fastest in TCE and an Audi third fastest in the overall positions.
Meanwhile, the Colin White car, number 178, initially covered by a static yellow by a marshal in the pit lane, and the team have now managed to latch onto the back of the car, Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, well, it's turning in just in front of me and being pushed into the garage. I'm going to dive in and see if I can find out what the story is and come back to you in just a minute.
All right, thank you for that. And it shouldn't take too long, hopefully, to get some information from CWS. It might come from Colin White himself.
Stephen Wells is in the car, Johnny.
OK. And on some entry lists early on in the week, Colin down to drive both the 178 and the 278. But we've decided they've decided he's going to be in 178, joining the two Mays, James and Paul.
278 in the pit lane as well now, Johnny.
But not with dramas, I'm hoping.
Not with dramas. That looked like a perfectly normal pit stop. Looking out to see where Adam Christodoulou is in the Pro Sport Mercedes, because he set a purple sector in the first part of the lap. It was green in the second, which means a personal best. Oh, and then it was rubbish in the last sector. So yeah, Adam getting a little bit blocked somewhere around that lap and not being able to improve then in the Pro Sport Mercedes. A 1:46.863 was the time on that lap, which is a bloody good lap, but not as good as his best, because his best was a 1:46.782.
Yeah, I mean, that's the frustrating bit about Barcelona in its current iteration, I suppose, is that you can have a blinding first couple of sectors and then you come into that... I won't say Najib chicane.
Everyone understands that one.
It's on some track maps named after the RACC, the Royal Automobile Club of Catalonia, and turns 14 and 15. You rely on it being very clean indeed, and obviously not encountering some TCE cars towards the end of the lap, which I'm sure is what Adam Christodoulou found towards the end of this 4.6 kilometres. Here is Andrew then with the update from Colin White on 178.
Yeah, what's Colin White driving the car? Here's Colin. What's been going on? You're going very quickly and suddenly it stops in the pit lane.
Yeah, we went out and done half a lap, and I think we've got a dry shaft issue, I think. We're going to have a look now, so I think it's a bit late for qualifying now, but fix it for the race.
You've got a very good setup though.
Yeah, the car is good, so it's got to get reliability now.
Very good. All the way from Somerset, Colin White.
Yeah, you can tell by the accent there. And so it was Colin White.
Glastonbury, no less.
Is he really? So it was Colin White in the car, not Stephen Wells,
Yes.
as the timing screen showed. Ah, right, okay. So it was Colin White.
There we go. So Colin straight out to give us a running report. Is this still Rick Brokers at the wheel of the 303 Red Camel car? We were told he was going to qualify and not race.
It is. We've got a fastest car though, guys. We've got a new provisional pole sitter, Adam Christodoulou in the Pro Sport Mercedes, has just gone quickest with a 1:45.893. That is, would you believe, 0.7 of a second quicker than anyone else.
Yeah,
that's phenomenal.
And was the second lap on the stint, because the earlier stint would have been very good indeed. It would be interesting actually if we could take the sector times. I'll have to do that in a second. Let's take the sector times from the first two from the first lap, and because his first lap was going to be quicker, but he lost it in the third sector.
I've got an optimised theoretical time, 45.837. Not that far off the actual time of a 45.893, Paul. Is that what you were trying to do?
Yeah, in effect, it means that the first two sectors on his first lap, which was ended up in a 46.83, were quicker than the first two sectors on the lap that he's just done.
And pole position 2 years ago was a 1:49.2. So we're now 4 seconds faster than that.
That's partly due to the resurfacing, partly due to good tyres.
It's 3.5 seconds, actually.
Partly due to progress as far as GT3 is concerned.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And again, coming from an AM car, remember the pros are slightly heavier as per the balancing that Creventic do to ensure that the pros obviously have an advantage in their driving lineup, but they're pegged back slightly, therefore up base weight to try and equalise the field. And the 620 Aston Martin is another A6 AM car. In fact, of the overall top 5 in the GT series, 4 of them are still A6 AMs, and it's Tom Onslow-Cole flying the flag for the pro cars, 3rd fastest at the moment in car number 5. Did we see improvement for Jake Dennis last time? No, because he's just left the pits. So this is an outlap for the 620R Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage.
He did have that Aston Martin up into 2nd place with that time that he's just put in. New set of tyres, no doubt, going on to the number 620. And stand back, I think, we're going to have a flurry of times, I think, guys. 14.5 minutes remaining in this session, so I think it's going to get very busy out there.
I think partly with the temperature just going down a bit, that might encourage them. Just to go back to Krista Dooley's time, first sector was quicker in the second lap, the one that ended up being the quicker of the 2 laps. His second sector was about 1/10 of a second slower than his earlier one, but in that final sector where I said he lost it in the first lap, he was practically a second quicker in the final sector, and that's why it ended up being top of the heap. So 1:45.893 is the best lap, as Joe was saying, some 0.4 of a second quicker than the Isaac Tumbly Lopez car collection Audi in 2nd place, and 3rd is still Tom Onslow-Cole with the Ram Racing Mercedes. He's out again now in the number 5 Mercedes, so look out for Tom possibly being one of those drivers to put in a quick lap towards the end of this session.
Well, that black cloud is depositing its rain just outside of the perimeter of the circuit, and if that blows across the circuit as it does, we are going to actually see not just a damp track, but an extremely very wet track, and that's going to call a halt completely to this qualifying, and we're going to pretty much see things pan out the way we see now if that rain comes now.
Just looking out of the window towards the north end of the circuit, I mean, it's a very dramatic skyline now with dark clouds, and you can almost see the rain descending over on the skyline. So visually see it.
Different to audibly see it.
It's going to be with us very soon, and I think it's going to be with us then for several hours, on and off. Night practice, I'm trying to remember now exactly the timings of that. It's obviously in the night.
It's 9 till 10:30, I think. Yeah,
9 till 10:30 local time, yeah. So I think
so
much
right
of
in the midst of the rain,
much of that's going to be affected by rainfall, as opposed to the race when we should only get passing showers from about midnight through till 4, as per.
You're safely tucked up in your beds.
Absolutely, and you'll be around the paddock asking people questions.
Well, if that's
annoying
good.
People probably.
I'm actually down in the pits tonight, and I did the rotor. That was stupid of me, wasn't it?
It was right.
Did the weather forecast first, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't.
Have
you brought a coat?
I haven't even brought a coat. Yeah. I did see a forecast, and there was rain nowhere near this place for the whole weekend. But the positive thing is that we've got a little bit of rain forecast, so there's going to be a little bit of there's going to be a need for people to lap in the rain on wet tyres and get the cars handling and get an idea of how the car's handling on this resurfaced track for sure.
Yeah. Car 85 fastest, it's in the pit lane, and so is Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, well, I saw Adam just giving the thumbs up there. He'll get his crash helmet up, and we'll get a few words. By just looking at the windscreen, and there's not a spot of rain on there, so it's not raining anywhere around the track. So Adam just taking his helmet off. We'll go back into the garage a bit, and then we'll go. Being congratulated by the team. Of course, this American-owned car run by German squad, Pro Speed Racing. Joe Foster's just down here, I see him, and Adam's got his crash helmet off now. But Adam, you can see the time up there. That was absolutely mega.
Yeah, it felt great. It's so tricky out there. So originally the plan was to wait, and we thought, right, we'll wait for all the madness to calm down. And then we looked out the back of the garage, and all we could see was like dark clouds, and we were thinking, oh shoot, is it going to rain? So it forced our hand to go out early, but we kept on tripping over traffic. So I did a bit of a banker lap earlier, and then we went out with another set of new tyres. Obviously, it's an hour session, so managed to find a bit of clear track, and obviously gave it all. And yeah, the car's been handling really great all weekend. So looking forward to the race.
Well, another 10 minutes to go, I think, but you look pretty safe there.
Yeah, so 10 minutes to go, but I think as long as we stay on the first row, then I'll be pretty happy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, looking very good at the moment for the man born in Lichfield to represent more West Midlands action there. I reckon he knows the phrase black over Bill's mothers.
There was a good effort there by Jake Dennis to get within. The gap was 0.7 of a second. It's just down to just over 0.4 now, with Jake Dennis putting in a 46.3. Jake Dennis has just gone by. I think he had a bit of a cooling off lap there, and I think he might be on another fast lap as he's gone personal best in sector 1. Paul, I know you've got sector time data there, but personal best in sector 1 for the number 620 Aston Martin. So Jake Dennis, keep an eye on him on this lap.
The other one that I was going to draw attention to is Ivan Piraeus, who actually went quicker than Isaac Tumbly Lopez did earlier on in the car collection car. So the number 33 had improved in second place, but then Jake Dennis went better than him.
He's gone quicker, personal best in sector 2 also. So all he has to do, and this is what we're seeing, Johnny. Yeah, back to Jake Dennis. I'm monitoring him, you're monitoring Perez as Jake Dennis continues right now. This is the part of the lap that's very, very technical. It's the slow, as Johnny described it, Najib bit. He's in the very slow chicane now, left and right. That looks clear. He's got no traffic. He's getting towards the final turn now, and we're just going to get a glimpse of him through our outside of our windows now, coming around the final turn to complete what will be another lap. Now, what will his time be? It's not as quick as he has been because of sector 3. He lost a bit of time there. It was a 46.659, so he's still about 2.5, 3 tenths off what his quickest lap has been. So that was all in the final sector.
We're in quite a good spell, by the way, of the season, where Mercedes have been very dominant in qualifying. Last 3 races in the 24H series have been Mercedes AMG GT3s at the sharp end, so it's looking like it'll be the same again for the time being.
But what's nice, though, Johnny, is the fact that we've got Mercedes, Aston Martin, Audi in the top 3, except that as soon as I say that, Tom Onslow Cole goes through and sets second fastest time, so it's now a Mercedes front row. Tom Onslow Cole just setting a 1:46.311, which puts him second fastest, so 45.8 is Adam Christodoulou's time. He's now back in the garage. I wouldn't have thought they're going to go back out again. I got the impression from what Andrew was saying, or Adam was saying to Andrew, that we're not going to see the 85 Pro Sport Mercedes back out again. Jake Dennis then pushed down to third by that improvement by Tom Onslow Cole, 46.311. So there's just 5,000ths of a second separating those two. 46.311 for Tom Onslow Cole and a 46.316 for Jake Dennis in the Aston Martin. Then Ivan Perez in the car collection Audi back into the pits now. Is he going to go out again before the checkered flag? Well, he's got 7 minutes still to do, so there's plenty of time to do so if he wants. Then we've got another improver, and that's Thomas Jaeger in the 31 Rothko Mercedes. He's just set his best lap of the session at 1:46.540. And then Herbert Motorsport coming into the equation now. 911, Matt Campbell leaping up to I was going to say 6th fastest, but further improvements push him down again. So Matt Campbell suddenly finds himself 8th, having just been 6th a moment ago, because Malicelli in the Ferrari improves to a 46.525. This, I mean, last 5 minutes of this, I think we're going to see further improvements. Whether we'll see anybody knocking Christodoulou off the top of the list, I don't know, but we've got a lot of improvements happening just behind in, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th places, all just setting their best times of the session so far.
We did warn you. We saw this coming, I think, Joe.
We did, yeah, absolutely. And we're also seeing the TCE battle, the TCE series battle changing. It's gone now to the way of the number 278. That's the sister car to the earlier provisional pole sitter. 278's the CWA CWS entry. Matthew Nicol-Jones putting in that quickest time for that car there, putting it ahead of the TCE runners. In second place is Vincent Rademacher. Earlier, he was on the pole position. He's just gone out onto an outlap. No doubt got a new set of Hankook rubber, so we'll keep an eye on him. Third in TCE, Stephen Wells in the other of the CWS cars. That car now in the pits with drive shaft issues, so that car now out of qualifying, so he's not going to improve, but he currently sits on the second row of our TCE grid. And Rick Breukers, who is in the pits in the 303 Red Camels Jordan now, he is a driver, Rick Breukers, who is not going to actually race that 303. He's just been hired in to put the car in a better qualifying than any of the drivers who were down to race the car could have possibly have imagined. So
when you say hired, I'm not sure whether any money would have changed hands though, because that's a family car, isn't it, basically? So I think he's probably doing his dad, Evo, and the rest of the team a bit of a favour. Put it into a useful spot.
Yeah, I'm not sure he can really argue that one, can he?
Let him crack on with it.
When your dad asks, you have to say yes, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's Andy Marriott in the pit lane.
Yeah, well, you beat me to it, really, because I was just going to say it's his dad's car, so that's why he's driving it. So, but you were right there. So I'm just down with our Motorsport now, waiting for the Aston, see if I can grab hold of Jake Dennis before we go and actually do the pole sitter interviews. But Jake's still going round, I think.
Yeah, and he's just demoted Tom Onslow Cole from second place, Andrew. He's just gone to second place, improving his lap time again, down to a 1 minute 46.246. He's now just 0.353 of a second off that elusive Adam Christodoulou time. 1:45.893 is the pole position time at the moment.
And that was the 5th lap of the stint there.
Really, that's interesting.
For Jake Dennis. So, yeah, I mean, he obviously got the car set up nicely, and the tyres continuing to perform for him. So, good performance that from Jake Dennis. He's now second. Aston Martin in second place, Mercedes first and third, Audi fourth, Mercedes fifth, Ferrari sixth, and then another Mercedes seventh. So good mix of the top brands as far as the overall positions are concerned. In the TCE category, we've got an Audi currently on pole position, then a Ginetta second for the TCRs, and then a Seat third. So it's a nice mix as well in the TCE group. They will have their own grid, so the TCE entries will be starting within their own grid, and but in the same grid, as it were. So they won't be starting 30 seconds behind, from what we've been told. They'll be starting all together in a single pack. But it does mean, and we can see it from the times there, the leading TCE cars, division cars, are faster than the slower of the GTs. So there could be some mixing up being done at the beginning of the race, with the TCRs not wanting to get held up by GT cars ahead of them that are slower.
And the slower GT series cars are generally the DT4s, are they not? There's some SPX cars down there as well, including the Mark Focus V8 from VDS Racing Adventures. And I mean, I'm calling them slow. Slow is not what you would be shouting if you were a passenger in the car.
It's relative, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's great for spectators, though, isn't it? We're going to have a very eventful early part of this race as the TCE runners get in amongst the slower of the GT runners in the GT series. That is 6:20 into the pits, and I think Andrew Marriott's been waiting patiently there for a word with Jake Dennis. You know what? He tried everything he knew. The Red Bull Formula One test driver was here in May testing in the young driver test session after the Spanish Grand Prix. So they really have optimised that. They've certainly optimised that run in the R Sport Aston Martin, and a car that's just been in and is now out of the pits again is Tom Onslow Cole. He's not happy, is he? He's not happy with third place, and with time ticking by, we've got about 1.5 minutes remaining.
He's not to get round, is he?
He's not.
So it's a late charge from Tom. I don't think there was very much more he could have done about it, to be fair, because he was in for fuel, and now he's chasing round, as I say, on this outlap, trying to get round before the checkered flag comes out, in order to then be able to do a flying lap.
We'll keep a keen eye on the timing screen as the seconds tick by, but here's Andrew then with Jake Dennis.
Yeah, you can tell Jake's been really working hard out there.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's pretty humid out in the car.
we went pretty full beans for it. Went 4 sets of new tyres. Did everything we could, but obviously it wasn't enough. Finished second just before the rain arrives. But yeah, overall, really happy. The car was a lot better in the qualifying run, and we made a big progression with it. So yeah, I think we're going off the front row. So yeah, all to play for tomorrow.
Did you think you really got a chance of snatching the pole then?
Going into qualifying, no. But like I said, we made some good improvements with the car, and I was happy. I was driving pretty well, so the lap was pretty hooked up. There wasn't much left in it, but overall, I'm really happy with second. It was the first race in the Creventic series for us guys, and yeah, we were on the front row, so.
I was going to ask you about that. It's a more relaxed series than what you're used to, I think.
Yeah, obviously, I'm used to blank pan, where it's a bit more intense, you could say, but obviously the level's still high. We've had 2 poles in blank pan, and just behind them at Mercedes today, so yeah, it's just as hard, but yeah, it's just a bit more fun for me, and it's obviously a great experience for my guys, my amateur drivers, finally get some laps in a GT3 car.
Are you still testing Formula 1 cars, Jake? I know you were here earlier in the season.
Yeah, I'm still linked with Formula 1, obviously with Red Bull Racing. It's been a great year with these guys. Obviously, they gave me the opportunity to go do Barcelona and Budapest, and whether there's plans to do more, I have no idea, but yeah, nevertheless, it was a great experience.
Jake, well done. Go and relax. Another Midlander, guys.
I know, it's almost as if you're picking them out, Andy.
He only interviews Midlanders.
I think he does. So we've now had Krista Dooley from Lichfield, although he lives in Birmingham, I think, and Jake Dennis from Nuneaton. Brilliant. I liked it.
He's not on the front row anymore because Tom On So Cole has done the business from wherever Tom comes from, but south of England, I would say.
South of Watford.
Yeah, you don't care, do you? Tom then
he's in line, Paul, to go even quicker. He's just a personal sector too.
Yeah, because he did make it on amazingly as lightning suddenly lights up the sky here at Barcelona. He's from Kingston on Thames.
Okay, just up the road from me, yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, boy.
That's all right. I bought a car from Kingston on Thames once. Joe had led me astray because he was actually already on his flying lap when.
Yeah, I thought he was warming up to that.
He was on his out lap, so he got a flying lap in, and he'll be coming through again on his. I'd got another flying lap in. It was a 1:45.982.
He's done it.
Unbelievable.
And now he's put it on pole.
How late do you want it? As the lightning again strikes from the sky, and we reckon Joe he squeezed onto a final lap by about 3 seconds.
You mean time-wise? Yeah, there was 3 seconds on the clock.
How far away was he from the checkered flag being displayed? And he whipped across the stripe, and the checkered flag 3 seconds later was waved.
Absolutely. The outlap that I thought was an outlap wasn't, as Paul said. It was a flying lap. He went on to second place with that one with 3 seconds before the checkered flag came out. And then that very last lap of the session, he goes onto the pole position by the massive margin of 0.015 of a second.
Yeah.
And the improvement from the previous lap to that one was what it was a 1:45.982, and then he did a 1:45.877. So he only improved by a tenth on his second lap.
And that was in the second sector. That was in the second sector.
And that was enough to get him onto the pole. So it is a Mercedes 1-2 still, but we now have Ram racing ahead of the Pro Sport Performance Mercedes.
And that's a second pole position of the year for Raymond Vos and Tom Onslow Cole. They're joined by 2 other drivers. Well, we talked about Tom having to have his game face on this weekend.
You know what, Johnny?
That is gauntlet firmly thrown down in the direction of Jelmer Berman and Rick Brokers, I would say.
When I saw Jelmer Berman and Rick Brokers in that car, no disrespect to Raymond Vos, but he is the AM driver. But when I saw Berman and Rick Brokers in that car, I thought, we're going to see another layer to Tom Onslow Cole. And that's exactly what I mean. And that's exactly what we've witnessed there. We've seen Tom put his game face on. He didn't even have breakfast this morning. He had a coffee and left. You know, he absolutely...
Well, that's what he's doing differently from us.
Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. We needed a nap after the breakfast. He's got a slightly
better waistline than you and I as well.
Absolutely. That's not a high benchmark, Johnny, to be fair. But
True
that
enough.
was what a lap there from the Ram Racing boys and Tom Onslow Cole. Absolutely awesome.
So a second pole after he and Raymond Vos were on pole in Italy for round 4 of the championship at the Imola 12 hours, and they had a good race there. I seem to remember certainly early on that race eventually won by the 911 Herbert Motorsport Porsche. We have only had one win so far this year for a Mercedes AMG. That came at the Dubai 24 Hours when the number 2 Black Falcon car took victory with Jelmer Berman as part of the driving lineup. But it's been quite a long time since then. And here comes the number 5 car then down pit lane. Andrew Marriott, I'm sure, will be very, very close to the Ram Racing Mercedes, which has appeared in all sorts of different livery in its history. And there's a nice piece in this weekend's programme detailing, I think, just about every paint scheme that Mercedes has been in, and the SLS going back a few years.
And it's worth mentioning that, you know, you may be sitting at home and say, well, I haven't got a race day programme, but the race day programme is available online, so you can download it and print it out at home, or just read it online if you want to.
The brochure, I think it's listed as.
Yes, so, yeah.
The electronic version of this weekend's programme that is being liberally spread around. And there's Bex, Tom's wife.
Mrs. Onslow Cole.
Mrs. Onslow Cole, indeed, and Dan Shuttlebottom as well, with some congratulations, who is the team head at Ram Racing. They are not too surprised, but talk about leaving it late.
I tell you what, I think they've come into this event looking at the entry. You know, people like, we've attracted R Sport with the Aston Martin. We've got the other usual runners, Bohemia Energy with Praha Scuderia Praha. Let's get down there to Andrew, though, as Andrew's got Tom, I would think.
Yeah, I've got Tom down here with a big smile on his face, his hair a little bit tousled as the car is pulled in right behind me. Step out of the way, don't like getting knocked down by race cars. That was a mega lap, but very last minute, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, we had a real mega run on the run before, and in the very last corner, we had a kerfuffle with one of the other A6 cars. So we really knew we had the pace, so you know, it felt like the right thing to do, to throw another set and have a go right at the end there.
The times are here, look how close it was.
It's a pleasure to just be ahead of my good friend.
Congratulations, OC, brilliant job, mate.
Thank you.
And I think we've got out here the pole sitter. Here's Matt Nicol-Jones, pole sitter in the other category. And we'll just get the camera here. And well, here's Matt. You weren't even on the entry list, and you're sticking on the pole for the TCE.
No, I got a phone call late last night, actually, to say...
late last night?
Yeah, and my gear hadn't even been washed because I was in Hungary a few days ago, so quickly washed that. It was still wet when I stuck it on this morning. And I'll have to admit, I've never been here before, so I did 3 laps in practice and then straight into quali, and yeah, the car was just really good. And clear lap, nothing special to it, that was it, really.
And G55, are you used to one of those?
Yeah, I used to run them a lot, actually, so I used to race a lot of Genettis, but for the last 3 years I've been Aston Martin through and through, so this is a busman's holiday for me. Normally I'm racing for my own team, so it's nice to be racing for another team, actually. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend. Random one for me, so just here to do the job.
Well, it's absolutely unbelievable. Last night you found out. Here he is, folks, on the pole. Well done to Matt.
Yeah, Matt Nicol-Jones representing the southwest of the UK from Truro. So a bit of a travel for him, and last minute as well. But I bet he's very pleased to be here now. So let's have a look at the results from qualifying, an hour-long qualifying session, and leaving it so late. Tom Onslow Cole for Ram Racing, and then number 5 Mercedes taking a second pole position of the year. The time was a 1:45.877 and 15 thousandths of a second slower. The Pro Sport Performance Mercedes of, amongst others, Adam Krista Dooley, who of course set the time. Third fastest, the R Motorsports Aston Martin. Time set by Jake Dennis, a 1:46.246, and fourth quickest, the third of the A6 AM cars, and Christian Frankenhout did the time for Hoffa Racing, defending champions. Then the car collection, Audi did a 1:46.335. It was Ivan Perez last to drive that. Matteo Malucelli, former winner of this race, down in 6th position, although that car had to be repaired after a crash earlier on today, so they might still be chasing setup there. 7th fastest, the Rofco Racing Golf liveried 31 Mercedes. 8th fastest for the Wochenspiegel Team Monschau Ferrari 488. That's car number 488. And then on the 5th row, Herbert Motorsports Porsche with a bit of work to do, you sense, alongside a Mercedes from Edex Sport, the French squad. And it was Marvin Klein last to drive that. Then the number 11 Swiss team Mercedes, car 15. Another A6 AM car, a second and a half off the pace. On the sixth row joining that, another car collection, Audi number 34, and the FF Course Ferrari, driven by Johnny Molan for much of the session. Car 23, yes, ended by JMO as well. 13th place. Then the best SPX car from Lopez Motorsport, that's a Lamborghini Huracan in the Super Trofeo Evo spec. Car 10 will start 14th, ahead of the best placed 991 class car from Italian team EB Motors, 15th spot for that. Another SPX car, the Vortex V8, car 204 will start 16th, ahead of the first of the two KTMs from True Racing, 17th. Edex Sports Porsche from the 991 class, 18th, and two more cars from that class, both Porsche Lorient machines on the 10th row, 65 alongside 64. Then we got the NM Racing Ginetta G55, the best GT4 car. Behind it, a couple of more cars from that division, the Romanian entered machine, number 446, and the QSR Racing School car. The other KTM qualified 24th, ahead of the slowest 991 class car from QSR, number 94, 25th. Nova Racing's GT4 Ginetta 26th, and then the SPX Mark Focus to round out the GT Series cars. So that's the first batch, if you like, 27 cars at the front of the grid, and the back of the same grid will be a separate race for the TCE series. And the TCE qualifying was no less fraught, as the weather continues to look threatening here in the northeast corner of Spain, with Matt Nicol-Jones doing the business in car 278, the second of the Colin White spares entry machines. The CWS 4x4 is the team, and it's an SP3 car, therefore, on pole position in the TCE race. A nice mixture, actually, of SP3 and TCR cars, because the best placed TCR machine is the Vincent Rademacher qualified AC Motorsport Audi RS3. The other Colin White car qualified in third position, although hit dramas quite early on in the session. Then the 303, qualified by Rick Brokers, but we won't be seeing him in the race. Monlau Competition's Cupra, car 107, qualified 5th, alongside its stablemate 108, also on the third row. Munkhoff Racing's BMW M4, that has been an SP2 car in the past, but in SP3 this weekend, ahead of the Mark Cars Australia TCR car, still getting used to that combination. TTC Racing's Seat Leon, car 103, will start 9th, ahead of Bapora Motorsports Audi, car 133, on the 5th row of the TCE Series entry. NKPP Racing by Bas Kooten, their 175 will start 11th, ahead of the Hyundai i30 from Denmark, number 30. BPM Racing, Martin Byford did a lot of the qualifying in that hour-long session. The 120 car will start 13th, ahead of the other Bas Kooten entry, 155. TFT, the Top Lock Racing machine, will start 15th, ahead of the Team Ultron Peugeot 308. Then the ATEC Seat, the Bonk Motorsport Audi, the other Ultron Peugeot of France, and Hoffer Racing's BMW M235i. No Cup 1 cars here this weekend, so that's in A3, as is the Synchro Motorsport car from Swindon. They're the factory workers out for a bit of a busman's holiday, effectively, with the brand new FK8, and great to have that factory team, in a couple of words here in car number 76. So that winds up the TCE Series grid, and this will all start, of course, on at midday tomorrow, twice round the clock here at Barcelona. Let's have a look back at the highlights then, after an hour-long session of qualifying. So we started in sunny conditions with a few breaks in the cloud, and the action came thick and fast from the off, because many teams realised they'd need to use the quieter track and the grippiest track surface as well, and wasting no time at all after a lot of repair work down at Bohemia Energy with Scuderia Praha. The Ferrari was good to go. Two of the True Racing KTMs here this weekend, looking very spectacular with their clamshell roof. And a queue formed very quickly at the end of the pit lane. The session was live, though, in no time at all. And the early job for Jake Dennis was to get some heat in his Hankook tyres. Really, we found that one quick run was all that the Hankook could provide in terms of performance. So an out lap, a flying lap, and an in lap. And Adam Christodoulou set the pace in the Pro Sport Performance Mercedes number 85. But Taman Slow was never too far behind in the bright red, the cherry red Ram Racing AMG GT3. Couldn't quite find the track position, though, Taman Slow. And then there was an early problem for the 178 Colin White Ginetta. that car, having set a good time initially and good for third place on the grid in the TCE race, had to come in for work, and Colin admitting early on that would be it for the 178. Little did he know, though, that the sister car, 278, driven by Matt Nicol-Jones, getting the late call-up, would put his car on pole position. And car 278 starts out front then with the Ram Racing 5 out front in the GT series. So that's qualifying done. We look forward to night practice later on tonight. Then it's a 9 o'clock session for 90 minutes, and it starts local time at 9 p.m. through till 10:30. And we'll have it all covered, both in audio and on the live stream as well. You won't miss a moment, courtesy of Radio Show Limited's coverage here on RS1. So thanks for joining us for qualifying. We'll be back a little bit later on for the late night session, 90 minutes worth, and that's much more track time, obviously, for all of the teams as they get acquainted to this place at night. We will see just how much light there is available to the teams. Not a lot in the section around the back of the paddock, for my money. There's a little bit of ambient light, obviously early on in the season, early on in the evening rather, and some artificial light as well. But we're not talking to the levels of Yas Marina, certainly. And it'll be a question of picking out your reference points, your turning points, your clipping points, and also focusing those headlights in readiness for the evening hours for the race. So thank you for joining us. That is it for our coverage at qualifying, but we are back just before 9 p.m. Central Summer European time. So join us for the later session, and bye-bye for now.